Hello. Thanks for joining another one of Jill's Juicy Chats. I'm here today with my friend Stacey. Stacey is a graduate of Fireweed Yoga's teacher training program. She's a member of the Year of You community. She's a busy mom and a full-time school teacher. And basically, the way Stacey processes her thoughts and writes about them has been magical for all of us in the community. Because Stacey, when you write, it's like we all get to have a nice deep breath and go, oh yeah, like you just articulated what we're feeling. One concept that you and I have circled around and we're noticing really common to people who are coming into the Year of You community is this concept of setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, the ability to do that, and how people pleasing is a hard habit to break. So maybe let's just start there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I really noticed, like there's been this whole process of becoming a little more self-aware this year. And the thing that I noticed is just how much of a people pleaser I still am. It's you think that you're over, or you've let some of those things go. But yeah, that was a big reality for me to face this year, is like, oh, this is still a really big thing for me. I'm still quite a people pleaser. I care what people think. And then sometimes I use that to, decide how I'm going to navigate my boundaries instead of myself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's a big transition for so many of us, isn't it? Because I think people pleasing is the kind of rewarded bad habit that we get from our culture, because everyone that you interact with that, you're trying to please in whatever way, where you'll go out of your way to make life easier for them, like they really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
And they get something from it, and you're loved because of it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a rewarded habit in our culture to be a people pleaser. Yeah. And then when we start setting healthy boundaries, it feels very selfish.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I don't know, that's a difficult thing for me to do, or it has been a difficult thing for me to do, to be selfish in how I'm choosing, what I will say yes to and what I'm going to say no to. And it's not something I've mastered, far from it, but I think the awareness of it is really powerful, right? Yeah.
And because so many people in this world are in the same boat as us, right? You can see people's burnout. You can see people's stress. You can see people's, like, their circumstances that are like creating some distress, dis-ease in their bodies. And like self-sacrificially, you're always sort of like, well, I could do just this one small thing to make their life easier. And I think it's almost this fine balance between doing that and then giving up that same offering to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
So,
I think the thing that when you talk about stress and the cycle of burnout, I think the other thing I've learned is that, like, that's not something that's sustainable. You can't do that forever without some pretty heavy consequences hitting you at some point. And I think that was part of what I walked through as well.
Mm-hmm. It's this, like Ayurveda always talks about the fire, this fire in your body has to maintain some stability. It has to maintain some heat. It has to maintain some ability to continue to serve you. And when that fire burns out and it's unable to process things for you, then all of a sudden your own body goes into a dis-ease cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Some of the things we talk about in the Year of You are sort of setting these really anchors in your day around your habits, around sort of when you get up, what you do when you get up, when you go to bed, what you do before you go to bed, when you eat, what you eat, few other habits around movement and meditation. And none of them on their own are hard.
No.
But what we find is that the reason we don't do them often is because we're doing something for somebody else instead.
Yes. And usually they're important people in your life. Like usually it's like, it's my family, it's my children, or it's work related. So it's all important things. But I think if you leave you until the end of the day, then those things just might not happen. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, those anchors in the morning are important. I think even anchors throughout your day and end of the day, those have been really important to me.
We were talking about how that revenge bedtime procrastination can be something, especially if you've done the people pleasing all day, where all day you've been doing a task list that is, check marking things off. And then that's where the difference between tiredness and burnout is apparent, isn't it?
Yeah.
What happens at the end of the day for all of us?
Well, I mean, I've totally been guilty of the revenge bedtime. I think for me, sometimes that's when the ground would come out from under me and I'm like, I've got nothing left. I don't want to do another task, another job. And yeah, that's when, suddenly you're staying up too late because you just want to have like an hour to yourself. And yeah, it might be things that are ineffective and not as beneficial to you, like binging Netflix or something like that. So yeah, definitely have been guilty of that. And I think it's been powerful for me to exchange that habit for other things that are a little more nurturing and more compassionate to myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That idea of switching out. So you don't have any, at that point of your day, you don't have any more bandwidth to do another task. And so our goal is to, when we've got low motivation, our goal is to insert the smallest act of self-compassion or the smallest practice of love that we can give ourselves in this moment. Tell us about that for you, because I feel like you were really good at taking that idea kind of to a new level.
Well, and I think especially if it's end of the day and I've got nothing left, it had to be a really, really small thing for me. So, I mean, I might not get a yoga practice in, but I could always do legs up the wall. I could find a space and put my legs up the wall and breathe. And that was something that was really nurturing. Or I could have that before bed tea, because I got a really nice bedtime tea, and that was something that would start to signal to my body that I'm winding down instead of continuing to wind up. I really loved oiling before bed, and I didn't oil a lot. Like I would maybe do my feet, so it might be hard to oil like my whole body, but I could oil my feet. And that was something it felt very compassionate to myself. Something like a yoga nidra, like put your earbuds in and put on yoga nidra, and that would help me to wind down. And all of those things are pretty passive, right? Like I didn't have to exert too much to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. So, you did yoga teacher training in 2019, and then 2020 kind of did the Year of You course. And it really is a paradigm shifter away from, motivation being the driving force to get things done in life. Mm-hmm. And it switches things around to sort of small steps, small practices building them up in just tiny ways. And I think you're the one who coined the phrase or said, not day by day, by choice by choice.
Yeah.
So how's that mental shift happening in your world? Just being able, how was that to sort of try and turn that switch?
You know what? I think it was really powerful when I started to like follow my intuition. You know, there's something about learning to trust yourself. And I think one of the most powerful things you taught me this year was just asking myself, what do I need right now? And if if I was quiet enough and asked that question and listened, usually my intuition would guide me to what that right choice for me would be. You know, it's like I could choose this or this, right? And I think there's so much wisdom in the body, and yeah, and usually I knew, like this is what I need at this moment, and this is what would be nourishing.
So what's the result when you make a choice based on intuition?
I don't know. I think I feel more like I feel more confident in myself. Um, I'm not trusting in what someone else is telling me what to do. Oh, well, you should do this or you should do this. Like, do this, workout program or eat this, nutrition plan. But it's more like really honoring what my body is showing me and what I feel like I need. So.
It's like a new language, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
like,
It's totally different.
and how would you say, this might be a hard question, because I think it's different. It's almost like when we are listening to our ego voice, to me, it's like English. I don't know. It's like actual vernacular words coming in my head that are yelling or screaming at me or like chastising me or anything like that. But the way my body talks to me is more like sensations.
Yes.
Is more like maybe even I'm not sure if I could put emotions into the way the body talks, but maybe, or like even little things like agitation. Why am I agitated right now? Why am I irritated? And I've got lots of pitta in me, so that those are some of the things that would come up. But some other people might experience, why am I depressed right now? Why am I sad? Why am I? So some of the emotions start to cue you, like, oh, I'm feeling like that again. What's going on? What is it? What is it when you are listening to what's coming? Like, I don't know, maybe what's the language, or how
Yeah.
do you hear yourself?
Goodness. How do I hear myself? I think, you know what? Step one is just listening and not judging myself, right? Like, if I'm feeling anxious or if I'm feeling like, heavy or depressed, I think I've learned to kind of just sit back and notice that. I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I feel really anxious right now. What could that be? And not cracking down or being so hard on myself for not being able to handle life, right? Because that I think would be my old pattern. Yeah, definitely the way that I hear myself or listen to my body is usually it's like, how am I feeling physically? How am I feeling emotionally? What kind of thoughts are spinning through my head at the moment?
Yeah.
And just first noticing that and then stepping back, and it's like, okay, well, what do I feel I need right now to help myself, right? Or yeah.
So what are the biggest shifts? Like, what would you say are the biggest shifts that happen in your life when you start asking that question? Like, what do I need right now? Um, I'll leave the question there.
Yeah. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest shifts when I ask myself that. Again, it's just that I don't know. I think it's like I start to feel like I'm tapping into my power, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, I feel powerful. I feel, I don't know, I feel like I'm in the driver's seat, when it comes to navigating my health. Um, Yeah. And I know that it's like I'm the only one that can answer that question.
So how does that relate back then to being able to set a healthy boundary?
Well, because that's internal versus external. So it's like if I'm the people pleaser, I worry about all the externals, right? I worry about how a situation is going to go, who's going to meet that need, how are people going to feel if I can't be there, if I can't meet that need. Those are all the externals, and I think learning to go internally is, yeah, that's really really powerful, and it's what should be navigating us, right?
Yeah. So your navigation system now starts to be something that's coming from within,
Yes,
generated from inside of you,
yes.
rather than your own navigation system being a response to all of that you said.
Yeah,
What
responding to my
became,
environment and responding to others, jumping at all the needs that are around you, right? And I mean, sometimes you have to do that when you're a mom or when you're a teacher. Like that's reality, is that there are going to be externals at times, but yeah, I think when we're talking about the big stuff, being able to go internally is that's important.
yeah, I think you've just sort of nailed a really big thing. You know, when we're in yoga class and it's almost like when you begin class, the invitation is to shut down all the withdrawal of the senses. It's actually a limb of yoga, Prachihara. Withdraw your senses and then bring your focus inward. Dharana, bring your focus inward, another one of the limbs of yoga. And that's what we practice on the mat. And then what you're giving us today is this way that practice, that mat practice, is actually translating into real life.
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like you're doing, isn't it? It's like when you ask yourself, what do I need right now? It's like, I'm withdrawing my senses. I'm coming back to my navigation system.
Yeah.
I like that you call it a navigation system. That's really, it does give it power, doesn't it?
Yeah, because that's the choice by choice, right? I'm navigating, I'm making decisions, and sometimes we make 101 decisions every day. Being able to tap into that internal space is important, right?
So if people pleasing is kind of like I don't know if it's a personality trait or if it's a way that we were raised, it's somehow
Oh,
become an expectation. I think it's really common in women. I think actually it's really common in people who go into really altruistic professions like teaching, nursing, first responders, like anyone who goes into careers like that where they're going into a career that's in service of others.
yeah.
Lots of them have that people pleasing
Taking
quality.
care of others. Yeah.
Yeah, you take care of others. It's almost like that's innate in you.
Yeah.
And yet, the capacity to do that over a lifetime is almost dependent on creating the boundaries so that your own body can be strong and can be vital and can have sustainable energy. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard it over and over again. It's like you can't pour out of an empty cup. And
yeah.
I think, like, when in my life personally, when I think about, like, what is my output and what's my input, I think for years and years my output has far outweighed my input, and you start to notice the consequences of that is like I've got nothing left to give, but I'm still being asked to give more and more and more. Um, and I think, like, one of the things I was like trying to figure out is like, how on earth do I match, right? With everything that I'm giving out or being asked to give out on a daily basis, how on earth can I match, the input to make sure my cup is full, right? And I think it does come in those anchors, and it does come in those little choices and those small acts. Like, you can't wait for the weekend. Like, you can't wait for the weekend to rest. Like, you have to layer it into every single day. and throughout your day.
So what are yours then? What are those ways that you have learned to fill your cup? However small they are, because you're the queen of small acts of compassion. You are. And you're like the, I don't know, I just feel like you showcase that so well, this idea that it's not ripping out your old life from underneath you and trying to start from scratch.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to build in ways that you're filling your cup every day. And so what are your key practices for that?
Key practices. And I mean, and I'm not super consistent with everything. And I think like that and maybe that kind of takes pressure off of people hearing that, is that it's like, I'm not super consistent with everything. It's like, I feel like I have all of these tools at my fingertips. And when you stop and ask yourself, well, what do I need right now? It's like, I'm just going to pick and choose, like, I need this tool right now. So, I mean, for me, I think like meditation is key. That's actually a way for me to go inside and do a little heart check, mind check, like, how am I doing right now? So meditation has been really big. Like a breath body practice is important, and I'm hit or miss, but I love to get it in, because for me, that's like a really natural way to deal with stress, or to even like release it. So, whether that's like a vigorous yoga class, or, or I'm getting a workout in, or I'm getting out in nature and going for walks, that's something that really fills me and feeds my soul. Breath, I think breath work. And I feel like I can do breath work in the middle of my day. Like I can actually do breath work in my classroom. And in fact, I can also like cue my students and be like, okay, I think we all need to take 3 deep breaths right now. And I often do that, right? To layer that in. Or I mean, and I often love to take my students outside too, like, let's go outside, let's get in nature and stuff. And those are things you can just fit into what's my daily life, what does my day look like, and how can we add in these things that are, this is nurturing, this is something that supports me. Yeah.
One of the sentences I've heard you say before is that there's this line that we feel like we're walking, or you feel like you're walking, that is between grace and discipline.
Yeah. And I think discipline comes in when it's like, I'm making what I know is the good choice, the right choice. Like, it's like, this is what's going to actually fill me or meet my needs in this moment. And grace is for just being human, right? Like, for the days when, because no one's perfect, and you are going to have a night of Netflix in there every now and then, right? So, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think most of us have a few shows that we powered through during COVID, didn't we?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Is it serving you to switch this paradigm in your world from do you feel like you are starting to escape the burnout cycle?
Yes, I hope so. Like burnout for me was an annual thing. And I think it is for a lot of teachers, or for a lot of people who are in any helping vocation. Burnout is something that, you cycle around. And I think, that it's leading me out of that.
Where do you see that you've created like these healthy boundaries, and where you're implementing them with more ease, or with more, with less self-judgment? Like, you're implementing them sort of going, no, I'm good saying this now, I'm good implementing this boundary. Where is that happening for you?
I think I'm learning to say no at work for sure. And and be okay with that. I don't know. I think it's Glennon Doyle who says it, like, if you're making a choice and it's between disappointing someone else or disappointing yourself, always disappoint someone else. And I say that out loud and I almost have a physical reaction, like, I can't disappoint, I can't disappoint someone else. But I think when you start to like weigh the cost of continually disappointing yourself, at a certain point you have to say, no, no more. I can't keep doing this.
So it's almost like this isn't, it doesn't feel like this is something that's curable. Maybe it is. Like, maybe we'd have to talk to someone. It's like, have you cured your people pleasing? Like, does that tendency or that underlying urge or that underlying intention ever leave you? Or is people pleasing just part of now your human experience, and your human experience is to always be sort of keeping it in check?
Yeah.
What do you think it is? Do you think it's something that gets cured, or do you think it's something
I don't know. Like, all I know is that I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely not there yet. I feel like this is a journey, and awareness is the first step. And then I think you do just have to keep it in check.
Yeah.
And always ask yourself, like, am I honoring myself? Am I honoring my key priorities? Or have I made a choice again to, like,
Serve someone else.
based on everybody else and everyone else's reaction and everyone else's needs.
And here's where I feel like the habits of yoga and Ayurveda support us, is that all of the habits of Ayurveda and yoga are intentionally designed to keep us connected to our internal navigation system.
Yes.
And the stronger our link is, our communication is, the exchanges or the position is of that internal communication system, the more readily it shows up for us, the more readily it, like, when we start facing the situation where the external is coming at us with all of these requests and needs and all this kind of stuff, when we are not connected to that internal navigation system, it's super easy to just be responsive to everything happening externally. But the more we build our practices, the more our internal navigation system is able to almost filter or navigate or something, so that we aren't quite so reactive to that external world.
Yeah. And I think it's staying connected, right? Yeah. It's like, how can I stay connected to, to my heart, to my intuition? How can I stay connected to God or source, to help guide me, right? As I'm responding to everything in the world around me.
So that you feel capable of response rather than reaction.
Yes.
So that you feel like you're still in the driver's seat. You're still tapping into your power.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge.
Freak. This stuff for me is always so juicy. I love it. I just love it. Last question.
Okay.
There is a tie-in in Ayurveda and yoga between the nervous system, like the stress response, and our immunity and our ability to have a high and strong immunity. And I know that's something that's been, like, we mess with it a little bit in our course. We mess with the idea that as we lift our ojas, our vitality and energy and everything like that, we soothe our nervous system, and that enhances our immunity. So what is your experience or thought process around that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's noticing, like, what space am I living out of, right? Like, it's like, am I living out of fight and flight? Or, like, it's like, is my cortisol like constantly firing, to the point where it's like you can't you can't get into, is it that parasympathetic, right? that space that is more healing for your body. Yeah, like I don't know. I think for me, like we talk a lot about those keystone habits. Like what is like that one habit, if it's like if I've got this under control, everything else is going to fall into place. And I think for me, that's always been like sleep, getting to bed earlier. And I think that that's something that really, really helps with my body's ability to heal, my immune system, but even like dealing with and like being able to like release like what is the stress of the day. So yeah, that bedtime routine is so important, and getting to bed earlier is has been huge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same with you there. It's almost like when you feel yourself starting to live in that stress response, then you check yourself and you're like, oh, my bedtime routine has fallen off the bandwagon a bit. And you intentionally put yourself back on that bedtime routine and the structure around getting enough sleep every night. And then all of a sudden you notice that you're not living in stress response anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that it's like, oh, now I'm well rested. Oh, now I have more energy. Oh, with my energy, now I'm able to to get a breath body workout in, and not feel so exhausted or depleted to be able to do that. So for me, it's like dominoes, right? It's like, okay, I just have to let's deal with domino one, and then everything else kind of falls into place.
And that's really what we're trying to do, isn't it? Is like to get the domino effect to be in our favor.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it really
Instead of the other way
like
around.
happens, doesn't it? It's like we can see what the domino effect does when it starts going that way, and that end result being the burnout. And then if we can put in a few key practices, then the domino effect starts to move in our favor.
Yeah.
And it's like the Titanic, like it's way harder to change directions than it is to continue going in the same direction that you're going in. Mm-hmm. So making small shifts away from the burnout direction toward the sustainable health direction is kind of what we want to do. We want to shift where we're pointing, where we're navigating towards things that keep us sustainable. Yeah. Whew. Good chat, Stacey.
Yeah, very good.
I hope you have a wonderful summer of filling your cup.
Yes, it is. It is already. I'm loving it.
Good. Yeah. Any final words?
Final words. I don't know. Yeah, I think sometimes people think that a small act won't, might not amount to enough, or it might not give them the desired result that they're looking for. But I really do think that it's like those little things that are done consistently over time. Like when you change your trajectory even slightly, it'll take you in a totally different place. So I do really strongly believe that the little things lead to big results.
Awesome.
Over time. Yeah.
Thanks for being in my world, Miss Stacey.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely to see your light shine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
All right.